Hi there, welcome back to Spring into Math 7. I'm Mrs. Campbell, and today we're going to be talking about outcomes in a sample space. Specifically, we're going to be looking at tables. Let's jump in. How can sample space table be helpful? How can a sample space table be helpful? Let's answer that question before we really jump in. Well, sometimes it's easier to see patterns and relationships in a table when you're comparing two objects. So here's an example of a simple probability of spinning a 4-number spinner 2 times. The sample space is listed 2 ways, from a tree diagram and from a table. So let's look at our first spin on a tree diagram. 1, 2, 3, 4 on our spinner, and then on our second spin we have all the probabilities 1 through 4 again. Okay, and here are all of our possible outcomes. But look at how much easier it is to read on a table. If we put the first spin in the column and we put the second spin in the row, we can see the patterns a lot more clearly. You got 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and so on and so forth. Then look down the column, starting with the second spin. You've got 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, and 4, 1. So it's a lot easier to see patterns and relationships in a table. So the diagonal of the table shows the possible outcomes where both spins have the same number. Again, this is cool because we can see patterns. You've got the first row across and down can give the total of all spins that have at least one time landing on a 1. So let's try finding some probabilities on this chart. To find the probability of only one of the spins being a 2, we can just pick out all the possible spin combinations where there's only 2 in the combination. So the ones that are highlighted here have 2. You've got 2 and 1, 1 and 2, 3 and 2, 4 and 2, 2 and 3, and 2 and 4. Super easy to find in a table. Now the reason we didn't highlight the spin of 2, 2 is because we only wanted one of the spins to be 2. So read the questions very carefully. We also need to find that we need the total possible outcomes. Now, we can just count the entries in the table. We can count each one of these boxes. Or, since we know this is a 4x4 table, 4 down and 4 across, we can just multiply the number of rows by the number of columns. So this is the same as using the fundamental counting principle that we've been talking about quite a bit lately. So this probability would be written as the probability one spin is a 2 is 6 out of 16. And the probability of one spin being a 2 is 3 out of 8. We just simplified that there. Okay, again, we've got the probabilities here. Probability there. So this means that 3 out of every 8 spins of both spinners, we should expect, and remember we say expect because this is theoretical probability, to have one of the spinners land on a 2. And this probability can also be written as a decimal or a percent. And I've added a little table here, a little graphic, and it just kind of helps you remember how to convert fractions to decimals and fractions to percents. If you're not really brushed up on these things, and it might be good for you to write them down, pause the video and write these examples down in your math notebook. So let's practice. Okay, let's create a table to show all possible outcomes of rolling a die and spinning a 4-color spinner. So to set up the table, here's what we need to do. First, we need to find out how big our table needs to be. 6 outcomes on a die and 4 outcomes on the spinner gives us 4 times 6, 24 squares. 4 down, 6 across. Then we're going to label this side for the die with a heading and the number for each side of the die. And we're going to label the side for the spinner with a heading and the 4 possible colors. So you can see I put die 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and spinner blue, red, green, and purple. We're just labeling. That's pretty easy. Next, we would put in the number for the dice roll. So all these are 1s, all these are 2s, all these are 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. But we're not done yet. Then finally, for each row, we're going to put in the color for the spinner. So we've got all these being blue, all these being red, all these being green, and all these being purple. So now we're able to find out all the probability combinations. All right, guys, that does it for this quick lesson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.